social care and care of the elderly, environmental protection and regeneration, and the advancement of cultural and heritage initiatives, alongside carrying out the domestic energy conservation works. So, our RSS man was involved in a Tidy Towns committee. So what did he do? PJ, an excellent RSS person he was involved in a constant process of keeping us on our toes in the community. He wasn't so much a worker for the committee, he was a volunteer, he was an enthusiast, and he pushed us all the time to get involved in it. And it was a great pity when he left us, and we might come back to that later on, the people leaving the schemes and what happens next. But anyway, perhaps I might kick it out to the rest of you. There's been a lot of descriptions there where it goes this afternoon. I might ask Aaron just basically tell us about the RSS scheme for starters and its various forms and what it does.
Okay, thanks very much, Kieran. So yeah, Rural Social Scheme is an income supplement, a scheme for small farmers, small fishermen. It's really designed to keep small farmers and small fishermen in their communities and harness those skills that they have, and to give that back into the community, and I suppose to get them engaged in local initiatives that are important to the local area. And I suppose one of the key features of the Rural Social Scheme is its flexibility. And a participant would work 19.5 hours per week, but it's on top of what they do at home, on top of their farming, on top of their fishing. So it works around that schedule for them, and that's what they see as one of the key benefits for them, because they can keep farming and they can keep fishing, and it can top up that income that they're making off of the small farm or their boat.
Is there a fixed level of contribution to them on top of another payment, or how money-wise does it depend on their own status, on individuals?
Everybody's circumstances are different. You have to, in order to qualify for the scheme, you need to be in receipt of a qualifying social welfare payment, such as job seekers allowance, disability allowance, farm assist, fish assist, correct? And you have to, so there's a couple of other eligibility criteria. You have to have a minimum of 1 hectare of land, or you have to own your own fishing boat.
And the herd number.
And the herd number. And you have to have applied for the single farm payment application as well.
Very good. If I can jump up to more, just in relation to, there was a new report done, I gather, recently on the RSS report. You're familiar with this? Maybe you might fill us in on the key findings in terms of what we've learned.
Well, I think what we've learned is that the Rural Social Scheme is probably one of the most widely and best loved schemes in rural Ireland, without a shadow of a doubt. The reputation of the scheme for getting work done and getting it done well is paramount. We've learned, on the other hand, though, that a lot of our participants are coming of a certain age that I won't mention. We're all approaching it, and when these farmers leave, we don't see the number of younger ones coming up behind them at the same rate as we would have maybe 10
I was going to say that to you. PJ was never replaced in our scheme because we didn't have the people coming up.
That's the problem, yeah, that is one of the problems. So we are also looking at how the scheme can be made, I suppose, more flexible for the demands that are there at the moment. That's not taking from Tidy Towns or caretaking or the usual work. Huge work done by the Rural Social Scheme in our walks. A lot of the walking trails that you see up and down the country, all of those would have been put in place with the Rural Social Scheme. And where it really comes into its own, we have a lovely scheme in your department as well, Minister, the Outdoor Recreation Scheme. And a lot of us leader groups that apply for that scheme, we get the 30,000. Now it's quite a good generous contribution. But by using the RSS, we get a lot more miles of walk, because that labour, that they can get on the digger, they can drive the dumper, they can bring up the trap, they can do a lot. The fencing, the laying of the roadways, that's all done. So it adds huge value to some of the other schemes that are run out of the department.
And I suppose, dare I say, and most people say there was nothing positive to come from the COVID pandemic, but there has been. Our walking and trails have come into their own and have remained popular since the pandemic. So lots of work for them from all over the country.
And I think there's even more work that we could work with and introduce in, and that is some of the environmental schemes. There has been fantastic examples through EIPs around the country, these innovation programs for agriculture, looking at bank revetment around rivers to make sure that the banks aren't eroding into the river and clogging it all up, getting back in biodiversity, even biodiversity in villages and untidy towns, as you know, it's hugely important now as well. So there's a lot more we could do, and I know one of the things we're doing ourselves, and my supervisor, RSS supervisor, will kill me if I don't give a plug to his Real Love Paint, and
I've seen
further
it.
to revamp.
Yes.
You know, that's something that every county should have, and will add hugely to our climate change. Just a small start, but working with the councils, that's something that could be rolled out.
That's a brilliant
immediately.
scheme. I was down at Revamp in Longford recently for the launch of
Yes.
it. It was excellent. Minister, it's a good cue for you, I suppose, when environment has been mentioned. I mean, in a general sense, one might wonder how might we leverage the scheme to take climate action. I mean, looking out today as we do, something is going on up there, and what are your thoughts in terms of the best way to approach that in terms of leveraging the scheme to take climate action?
Well, thanks, Kieran. And I think firstly, I just want to say I've been hugely impressed by the Rural Social Scheme and how it operates across the country. And I've visited a good few projects over the last 2 years in particular. I come from a small farm myself, 42.5 acres we had, and we didn't have the Rural Social Scheme at the time. It's not functioning anymore, but I often wonder, you know, if we had the Rural Social Scheme, would it have helped to keep my dad or my brother on the farm?
Where was your farm incidentally?
In Cork, yeah.
In Cork. What part?
Mid Cork, a place called Grenagh,
Grenagh.
near Blarney. Yeah. There's people here today who know where it is anyway, I think.
The Cork Mafia, the Cork Mafia here. Yeah. Oh, they're here, they're on this side. It's the Roy Keane troublemakers over here. Sorry, miss, go ahead.
But it's a great scheme because I think it's not just, I mean, it's an income support scheme, it is. But I also see it as very much a social inclusion scheme. And also from what I've seen as well, it's a mental health support. I've been to a couple of places where it's very clear from some of the participants I met, and this was actually coming out of COVID as well, that if they didn't have the Rural Social Scheme and the pub was closed, there'd be very little for them to get them out the door during the day as well, and into any kind of social situation as well. So the value of it is multi-layered, and I think it really warrants us, and we're doing it at the moment, we're in the middle of the review at the moment, it warrants us really having a look at it from scratch and seeing what we can do here to give it a future going forward. Because look, I suppose the overall force that we're all pushing against here is that there's less and less small farms, and we've got about 2,700 people on the books under our social scheme as well. We need to keep them. We need to keep them people on the land, and if the Rural Social Scheme can help to do that, then we need to see other ways of how we can do it as well. There's the income support bit as well, and you know, there's an argument that we could improve that, but
Yeah, because you hear it from time to time, going back to the small farmers, dole is often mentioned as being an incentive to keep people on the land and keep them in place. I mean, particularly might add in this region, because of what's happened in Bord Namona with decarbonisation, we have a lot of people who were small farmers and had a job in Bord Namona, he's been no longer doing that, but looking for other opportunities.
Yeah, and I think some of the preliminary findings from the survey that we did, I mean, people did say that they got involved in RSS for the income support measure. Now, it's not going to break the bank in terms of what's going into someone's account for the hours that they do, but it was also recognised the other benefits of it as well. So I think we need to look at what's happening more broadly speaking and how we can fit RSS into that. And I do think there's potential there in terms of restoring biodiversity and climate action as well. And there's some good examples of it already in Mayo. Sabina here, I'm not sure.
The Mayo brought in.
She's around somewhere. But there's a really good example there of the RSS scheme, working with the National Parks and Wildlife Service, trying to get back to rhododendron. And there's lots of little practical examples like that around the country. I think that we need to push out more as well and see if there's other areas that we can grow the RSS into.
Aaron, I suppose we can't ignore the statistics. Participation declining by 13% December 29 and December 22. You're on the ground. What can we do to try and deal with that issue? I know it's not easy. It's not an easy question.
No, there's a lot small things that can make a difference, I suppose, in terms of, you know, maybe the age profile of participants. Like Maura mentioned it there, a lot of people are coming to retirement age, and I know there's a whole other issue there, but a person has to retire the day before they're 66, and a lot of our participants and other participants, they're only getting going at that age. You know, there's a willingness and a want to stay involved in the community, stay involved and participate. where I'm from in West Cork, we have a lot of coastline and we have a lot of fishermen, but the scheme only extends, and I know we're at the farming today, but I need to get the mention in for them, but it should apply to the crewmen who actually don't have a licence but actually need the scheme just as much as somebody who might be on a small farm assist payment.
Yes.
You know, maybe extend the scheme so that it includes the likes of maybe further out in a family to nephews, maybe to you know, nieces, sons-in-laws, daughters-in-laws. I have an example of a gentleman actually down in Alleys at the moment. He's in that bracket. He lives in the community, is willing to participate, but meets some of the criteria, but just doesn't meet all of them. And there's only 3, but it's prohibitive in that way. So there are a number of measures that can be taken to try and attract more people, you know, that are there. Like last Friday, I had 3 community groups call me looking for an RSS participant because they're like gold dust. They have that can-do, roll up your sleeve attitude. They're responsive, and they can, like, the thing about the Rural Social Scheme as well that I didn't mention is it's voluntary. People want to be there, they want to be participating. And you mentioned payment, like as part of this review, in fairness to the department, they've written out now to try and raise the profile to any existing farmers that are on Farm Assist. I had a phone call last Thursday from a gentleman in West Cork, and he was on, for example, he was in receipt of say €47 Farm Assist, and had received that letter from the department, and we sent him out a form the next day, willing. So there's a matter of raising the profile of the scheme as well, because we've been talking up the Rural Social Scheme for a long time, but other people kind of need to do that for us as well now.
Bit of a PR job required.
Yeah.
More than anything you would do if you were minister, dare I say, in the morning, would you?
I can see her.
And we said to you we had one thing more that you could change to improve the popularity or the eligibility of people for RSS. What would it be?
I think we need to move from the social welfare baseline to more a living wage baseline.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, thing could come in and would bring more people. I suppose, why am I worried about losing the Rural Social Scheme and subsistence? Can't we have CE and can't we have... My reason, because where I live in East Kerry and I drive over the mountain and into Cork, and all that area, in the 32 years I'm making that journey, I have less and less review, and I have more and more sick to spruce. Pardon, Minister, but I know there's a big drive for more sick to spruce, but we have enough of it. We really do have enough of it. And every small farmer that can no longer farm is going to end up, that farm is going to end up under sick to spruce if we're not careful. Our biodiversity is going to be gone. What sells our milk and our butter and our cheese and Kerry and Dairy Gold and whatever, that's all gone. So I think there's for me, a green impetus to make sure that we have the maximum number of smallholders on the land, keeping the kind of countryside. It's there that I've had the countryside the way it is, and I think we need to do more than just to social welfare subsistence level. I think it needs to come up and bring more into the net, because that would make a huge difference.
I love the way you're having a lovely, casual, calm discussion, and all of a sudden a grenade is lobbed over. And we're coming to the end. We were almost coming to the end. I was looking forward to. I was waiting for Michelle to wave and say, "Launch the annual report now." So I got a couple of hard questions, Minister. Forestation, is it gone too far? That's the question.
Well, look, I'm no fan of sick to spruce either. It's a problem. It's not the way we want to go. And you know, the strategy going forward is to have more broadleaf. That's better for everyone, I think. So that's part of the plan. I mean, what continually strikes me is what we want to do with RSS, which is to continue it and to make sure there's options there for small farmers, fits in with so many other areas of wider government policy as well. And we've been talking to the Department of Agriculture on this as well, but it fits in with other departments as well. And I think what strikes me as well about meeting a lot of the participants is that their skill levels are just extraordinary. It's not like they can do one or two things. They can do this whole range of things that they bring to a community as well. So look, me as Minister for Community Development, I'm looking at every way to not just I suppose, maintain and support communities, but to build them as well. So we need these skillful people involved at a community level as well, so that others can learn from
Well,
them.
that's the one. I mean, I know, and it's not necessarily for you and your brief either, but it comes up all the time. 66 retirement age. When are we going to do something about that? We're telling CE people they have to go. We're telling Pobble, CSP, community service people you have to go. Is there a need for a broader view in terms of our strategic planning going forward on that age and increasing it?
Well, there's big planning ahead with pensions more broadly speaking, but the link there is it's the pension link, it's the pension age link, and at the moment all those.
So if they're prepared to wait till 68 or 65 for the pension, we'll be able to extend it.
Well, so the question is, do we break that link there, and then it becomes something different? I mean, this is a scheme in the Department of Social Protection. There's been arguments before that maybe it belongs in a different department, and I'm not going to dig that argument up here. But look, at the moment we've 2,700 farmers. We've an annual budget of 50 million. We've got enthusiasm going forward as well, and we're at a place where we're trying to see about how we can make sure that this maintains going forward, but and how it can help us do the other things in society we wanted to do as well. So, you know, the review is midlife at the moment. We're doing workshops in Roscommon and Charleville next week, and then after that I think we'll stop the intake, and we have a steering committee as well, which both the ladies are involved in, and we'll need to kind of plot the course going forward.
Let's be positive and looking forward in terms of getting the word out. You say we need to get the brand out, what can we do in terms of getting that image out? Information, an education campaign, are we doing enough? Do people know it exists?
Yeah, well, look, communities certainly know that it exists because they realise the importance of it if they've lost a participant or if they've got a participant. I suppose we do need to build the profile of the scheme. I can give plenty, as part of this review, fed back some case studies. One that comes to my mind is a men's shed down in Allahees, and Allahees is about 2 hours from our office in Clonakilty during the summer. So the chair is a Rural Social Scheme participant. Some of the members are past participants. Some of the existing members are participants. And so during the summer they built a pod. You know, it's all, as you said, Minister. There is a very big social element of this. So there are, like, I keep saying the Rural Social Scheme is a good news story. It's always been a good news story. Look at the Bear Away. That wouldn't be there only for a lot of the hard work that the RSS participants put into it. The Greenway in Mayo. So, like, yeah, you need to focus on the positives, but I think there's just some changes that need to happen. Like, it can't cost people to come to work. Like, we cover a lot of West Cork, and you know, for some people to go to work, especially with the cost of living at the moment, the top up it's not doing it for them, and
I know it changed from person to person, but I think of the TOOS scheme, for instance, which operates just be about 20 euros top up.
It's the same. 27.50.
27. So you can see the point. It's not going to make a difference, huge difference.
It's hard for me to convince a person who's in receipt of maybe €200 on Pharmacist to come onto the Rural Social Scheme and get an extra 27.50 for working 19 and a half hours a week. I can sell the Rural Social Scheme to anybody who listens to me, but you have to make it some bit attractive for them as well. Yes, there is a social element. It opens up doors and networks for them, but at the end of the day, you know, like myself, they're wondering what's in their pocket, what have they got to spend.
And I did read someplace, Minister, we had some funding available in the Exchequer. Did mention there was a possibility of putting some funding. Is this an area that might attract the Minister for Finance shortly?
You're asking me?
I'm stripping more of your ministry again, Morris. You're still Minister Morris.
We're 3-4 weeks out, so I'm keeping it tight in terms of what our plans are for the budget. But I can tell you I've been thinking very much about the RSS over the last while in terms of my interactions with other ministers.
And it is popular. Maura, your last thoughts on this before we move on?
To make it more attractive for farmers, I think we need to start. We need to get our review done, and I see the chairman of the review here, Kathleen Stacken. She was telling me earlier we need to get the review done. So she means business. We need to get the word out there then that RSS is not, it's not a last resort. It should be a first resort for smallholders in rural Ireland. We know the quality of the work is good, we know all the positives, but we need to get a positive campaign going because I think it might have suffered a bit of negativity, so we need to get that going, and we can do that. We can do that in ILD, and we can do that across all the groups. I think maybe highlighting some of the work and letting people see, farmers see, and their spouses and their children, that there is more to be gained. As you said, and I share that with you. The farm I grew up in is no longer being farmed, and yeah, I think if that scheme was there at the time, and if there was a bit more, encouragement and maybe bits to encourage people in, things could be different. And I know where you're coming from. It's not easy going on then when you look at that. Yeah.
Well, I suppose some might say that it might be a good time for somebody like my old employers nationwide to come along and start focusing on the work. They do it for tiny towns, and I imagine a lot of workers are probably RSS workers there as well.
You would welcome them. Yeah.
Give us a chance to. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just a show of hands, anybody who has an RSS person in their community working at the moment, raise their hands, please. There you go. So they're out and about. They are successful, even with the decline of numbers.
If you're not in Dublin, they all do. I think there's one or two in Dublin.
And that's plenty. That's plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, I want on your behalf to thank our panel. Minister O'Brien's going to stay with us, but I'd like to thank on your behalf Maura Walsh, Chief Executive of IRD Duhallow, and Aaron O'Driscoll from the CEO of West Cork Partnership for joining us this afternoon. I know we have a few technical issues to tweak and do microphones, but I keep talking, as to say, and there's only one rule in this business.